Hello sir, good afternoon sir, how are you doing? You are having problem with your computer?
So, the de-feminization or uglification of female characters in the Western gaming industry. A very shaky, divisive, and subjective matter that can even cause disagreements between people who are on the same sides of the overall issue, and an extremely toxic one to have online on social media. So that ought to be fun. Let's talk about it. I'm not much interested in wasting like 10 minutes showing examples of this happening in media these days just to establish that it happens. I think it's pretty clear and apparent to most people, and deniers are just either delusional or dishonest, that no amount of examples will ever be enough. Instead, I am much more interested in tackling the type of arguments that they make to justify it or to dismiss it. If you genuinely are someone who is on the fence over whether or not this is really happening or it's just a coincidence or an exaggeration because of seeing some examples that you don't agree with, just know that it's understandable to feel that way. Beauty is somewhat subjective after all, and so some cases aren't easy to judge. You may find some examples that you disagree with here and there. You may even find that in some cases, depending on the game and what type of genre and character it is, that it is more immersive not to have female characters wearing revealing outfits or very strong sharp makeup and other types of things that embellish a character's look. We'll be getting into all of this in just a second. I'm not here to bullshit you guys and tell you that every character is supposed to look hot, and if they don't, then it's ideological or woke or whatever. But I'm not here to bullshit you by telling you that there isn't an agenda trying to masculinize female characters either. In some cases it's masculine features, in some other cases it's trying to take their inherent femininity and feminine values away from them and demonizing or trying to redefine the very concept of beauty. This is happening, they don't even try to hide it. The problem is that the people are either not looking any of this up, or they are so deep in a bubble that has taught them and programmed them to hate men and heteronormative things such as strong masculinity and graceful femininity, and also to hate the very basic and traditional aspect of beauty and attraction between men and women, that they end up bullshitting themselves. In other words,
the people are retarded.
So what I'm here to do is lift the veil a little bit and try to dive into these aspects that are both influencing female character design as well as the dynamics between male and female characters in storytelling. And most of all, expose the shit out of the false copium claims and straight up hypocrisy that these morons don't even try to hide when arguing about it online. So let's dive in. The "who cares" angle. So one of the type of comments that I see in this matter is, who cares? Why does it matter? It's just a game, it's just pixels on the screen. Gooner this, gooner that. It's not real. Why does the look of a character matter that much to you? As always, people are always going to try to trivialize you and ridicule you to not engage with the kind of facts that will shatter their little ideological worldview. That's always going to be their first tactic, alongside shaming and insulting you. The truth is that everyone cares, everyone has always cared and forever will care, because aesthetics are deeply tied to human nature. People are attracted and repulsed by all manner of things in our lives and in our day-to-day, spanning back thousands of fucking years. And people who use these arguments are either too stupid to realize it, or they're just coping, because they don't want to admit it to themselves that a character is a thing, not a person, and an aesthetically pleasing character would be a lot better than a character that was aesthetically botched to please an ideology that has decided that beauty is something that needs to be either hated or redefined. And of course, there's the usual classic thing of like, who cares, it doesn't matter. But at the same time it does matter to them because it's meant to be for representation. And so if the character comes out looking hot instead, then they group up to shit on the game and on the people who play them, like with Stellar Blade. So suddenly it's far more than just pixels on the screen. But even ignoring all of that for now, the truth is that our ties to aesthetics are evolutionarily coded in so many different ways. There are many things that scare us and bring us joy, even as babies, things that make us salivate and things that make us disgusted, just off of what they look like. And just take a look around, nearly every aspect of our lives is influenced by aesthetics. This is how all manner of things get designed and presented all around us. In traffic, for example, why does red mean stop and green mean go? Why are stop signs and prohibition signs and other similar commanding signs in red, and why are informational signs in blue, for example? And when you're talking about products, when you're watching advertisements for stuff, why does everything always look aesthetically pleasing? In advertisements for clothes, medicine, shampoos, bathing gels, lotions, etc., why are people always looking super good and well treated? Why are they always presented smiling with perfect pearly white teeth? Why do the locations look super good, clean and well lit as well? Why don't we ever see an ugly dirty fuck covered in shit advertising one of these products from a landfill? Or hell, why not at least a poorly lit, messy small apartment with dirty walls and dead plants? Why are advertisements for cars always so clean looking too? Why isn't the car ever dirty or filled with shit on the inside to better represent family people or the average person with random shit in their cars? Why is the person in the car always good looking as well? Why don't they ever get like, I don't know, fucking Boogie 2988 to film a car advertisement for Mercedes? Because aesthetics matter and they want to associate their products with clean, happy, healthy, just overall positive and aesthetically pleasing imagery. If none of this shit ever mattered, we wouldn't even have advertisements to begin with. Just a picture of the product on screen with a description of what it does. Head and shoulder shampoo. It washes hair and prevents dandruff. Period. Done. Moving on. The same concept applies to media like video games. Not in the same way, of course, but nobody wants to be playing a video game with ugly characters. The characters in the video game are an asset, and depending on what type of game we're playing, it's important that they look certain ways. On some cases, of course, a more realistic approach is necessary. You don't want certain characters to be misinterpreted through their designs. So for example, if you have a female character that is meant to be reserved, maybe very religious, then you don't want to be giving her revealing clothes. And if you have a character that's more of a background presence, then you shouldn't be giving her relevance through the character design, such as making her overly beautiful and noticeable. If you're portraying a more realistic, low-key setting in a much slower and more grounded game like a narrative-driven game, for example, such as the Telltale games or Life is Strange or whatever, then of course you don't have a reason to have the characters portrayed with exceptional beauty and attractiveness. However, still, despite this, people also don't want characters whose faces are being botched just to look ugly on purpose either. There is a balance to be struck in these cases, but sadly activists don't understand the fucking meaning of the word balance. However, when you have games that are exceedingly fictional, games that are high energy, high impact, fantasy, sci-fi or other styles of action-adventure, where the protagonists and the main characters are supposed to be the total stars of the show, then you should have good looking character design. Period. Your characters are assets and they are meant to look good, do cool shit, and have interesting personalities and character arcs. And this goes for everyone, because of course this issue only hits the female side of things. There's no one advocating for more realistic representation for male characters, nor would we want them to. We don't want to pick up an RPG that lasts dozens, if not hundreds of hours, and be looking at an ugly or unremarkable character that isn't even memorable. There is no man alive, worth his salt, skinny as shit or fat as fuck, who would like to play through The Witcher or Final Fantasy as a Geralt or a Cloud or a Clive or whatever who reflected themselves on screen, and it's exactly the same thing for female gamers. And it's always been the same for movies and shows as well. Most actors and actresses are good looking people, especially the ones being cast for these big major titles and franchises throughout time. Because duh, people like to see good-looking people as the characters they're investing themselves in. Whether you are a guy watching The Expendables, a girl watching Twilight, or a mixed audience watching classics like Troy, Lord of the Rings, Gladiator, Indiana Jones, Matrix, Pirates of the Caribbean, and so many others, you want an accurate presentation of their characters, and 9 times out of 10, barring specific examples where characters are meant to look disfigured or presented as outcasts or whatever, you want those characters to look good. It makes your characters more memorable, interesting, and aesthetically pleasing, and it makes your entire production look better too. These characters become iconic symbols throughout time. I don't know about you, but I would rather see this as a symbol than this. And none of this has anything to do with sexualization. It's not to say that people can't have their attractions to these actors or actresses. In many cases, of course they did, and still do. The phrase sex sells has existed for decades for a reason, and there is no problem with it at all. And we'll be exposing the hypocrisy of this bullshit in the next topic. But there is a clear separation of these two things when talking about a character looking good and a character looking sexy. And these fucking weirdos who like to reduce everything to insulting you for being an incel or a gooner or whatever, for laughing or criticizing an ugly female character's face, are just projecting their own addiction onto everyone else to feel morally superior for one split second of their miserable, brain-dead lives. It very much is what it is. This is an inescapable feature of being human. We like aesthetically pleasing things, even in inanimate objects. We go out to buy a car, we want a nice looking car. Sure, other aspects are important too, but you're always going to be keeping the look of the car in mind. You go out to buy a couch, you're going to take the look of the couch into account. The color, the material, the shape, etc. You go out to buy a phone case, looks matter. Head out to buy a keyboard, a coffee table, shoes, looks matter. So why wouldn't they matter for characters in media? What are these people going to say now? If I take too long choosing which refrigerator to bring home, I'm thinking about fucking it? Even in love itself, as much as the personality of the person matters most when choosing a partner for life, there's always going to be an initial spark that comes from how a person looks. Sure, there'll always be people out there who had their relationships start in different ways. Some people were visually attracted first, and through that came the interest to know the person better. To others, it was the other way around. They never noticed someone's beauty until they were captivated by their intelligence or their sense of humor or their taste in the many things in life. But beauty, whether it sparks initially or blooms later on, is still there, and keep this in mind for a little later in the video. So what the fuck kind of delusional new age bullshit copium is this, where the concept of aesthetics, of how a thing looks, doesn't matter? That the look of a character in a video game is not going to be impactful? Tell that to Concord and that cast of fugly ass designs that 100% contributed to the fact that nobody wanted to play it. Why would you want to play as these Yahoo looking ass morons instead of characters who look good and cool? And please take note of the language that I'm using because it's going to be relevant in the next topic. The oversexualization argument. These low IQ weirdozoids like to sexualize the situation while then shifting the blame to us. Classic gaslighting bullshit right here. As I mentioned in the previous topic, even if all you do is make a post comparing the perfect 3D face scans of actresses in Eastern games versus botched 3D face scans of actresses in Western games, they will gaslight you with this nonsense. Again, this is their number one goal, to immediately eliminate the discourse around it by ridiculing and delegitimizing the people speaking against it. Even female gamers, not much can be done or said in this regard. Some people just cannot be reasoned with, they're fucking retarded. They're operating off of they're not operating off of any inquisitive or genuine standpoint. They're fucking retarded, guys. They're not from here. But we do have to talk about the hypocrisy in this argument. It comes in two levels. Number one, they'll bitch, moan and complain about female sexualization while not bringing up the obvious male sexualization in the same medium. And again, not that we want them to, but it just goes to show how this is all just ideologically driven bullshit. It's not actually genuine, or virtuous, or serious in any way, shape or form. And number two, these people openly engage in sexualizing LGBT and non-LGBT characters. And not only that, but even the access media itself pushes them to do so. Have a look at this article, for example. Several examples in here of encouraging this kind of behavior for, let's just admit it, women and gay men. And in the case of female characters, of course, it's for gay women. And their language here is thirsty as fuck. It is far, far above the language that is used when describing good-looking characters from the East versus the West, for example. This is actual sexualization of these characters and consequently their actors, which, if not for the hypocrisy of demonizing straight men for doing the exact same thing for female characters, I wouldn't even care about. Because as we established, it's always been human nature. We like good-looking characters, we like to see good-looking actors, we like exciting performances, we like what we like. It's universal. Again, sex sells. And these ratty little fucks know it too, which only makes their hypocrisy more disgusting and unacceptable. So next time someone tries to take that road against you for sharing memes calling out ugly-ass female character designs in the West, or appreciating attractive characters like Eve or Tifa or Ashley or Triss Marigold, or creating your own attractive female characters in Baldur's Gate 3 or other RPGs, call them out on their double standard bullshit. They call us gooners and shit for bringing up ugly-ass screenshots of cave ass. Meanwhile, they're the ones proudly engaging in gooner culture over on Tumblr, while having the Access Media journalists telling them to go and goon on fucking Sauron and Daemon Targaryen as well. Are you shitting me? The representation and beauty standards angle. This one is going to take a while, but bear with me here. The argument for representation is incredibly flawed at best. It's an argument that tries to emotionally manipulate people into giving too much of a fuck about something that is framed in a specific, hypocritical, or unrealistic way, and then it relies on the person it's trying to convince to make a choice between two simplistic hypothetical choices, one that is morally good and one that is morally bad, without noticing that they just got manipulated into it. And that's how they getcha. So, for example, take The Acolyte. It was painted as important because it featured a female director, female writers, female protagonists of color no less, a powerful matriarchal group of lesbian witches, and you know, all of that shit. You guys get it. This importance is only born from this assumption that black women are a weak and special little group that requires to be protected and pandered to. And if you disagree, then you are immoral. See what I mean here? It uses the delicate issue of racism to fabricate a scenario that is based in reality but not actually realistic, and then poses a question: are you pro-diversity quotas or are you a racista? Never mind the fact that they run with it too. They paint themselves as oppressed minorities when in reality they're starring in $100 million projects. Hell, Amandla Stenberg didn't even need to audition, she got specifically procured for the role. And when it failed, none of it was her fault or the fault of the production, it was all pinned on the bigoted fans. So basically, she's born privileged, she gets given roles based on that privilege, and still has the privilege of failing upwards without ever having to take accountability. Must be fucking nice. Disney is a company that will call its fans in the West racist for not liking their shows, while catering to the racism of their fans in the East by constantly taking out or covering up black people in their movie poster for China. I'd actually respect these people more if they turned to their bosses at Disney and asked them why is it that they do that shit on their posters, instead of just calling their fan bases racist and sexist for not watching their dog shit content. But of course they're never going to do that because the only thing that they truly care about is the money and the attention. And on the side of LGBT representation, it is usually attached to a similar thing, which is the fact that homophobia is still a very delicate and tough subject. LGBT representation in media was supposed to be a means to normalize the fact that some people are just attracted to people of the same gender, and try to end that stigma surrounding it. The problem is that, as usual, activists ruin everything, so instead of normalizing gay characters through normal characters that happen to be gay, they now go out of their way to pump media with pride flags and super overt stereotypical gay characters that are written to be deliberately obnoxious about it. Once upon a time, not even that long ago, stereotypes used to be a bad thing to stay away from. Now though, it's what unhinged activists push in order to create tokenized LGBT characters. It's what these crazy motherfuckers consider as progressive. And sadly, it didn't even stop there. The representation of gays, bis, lesbians, and transsexual people has devolved into turning the LGBT into a symbol and a political movement that attached itself to radical extremist ideas such as self-ID laws, which, if you don't know what this is, it's the thing where a man can just identify as a woman with next to no effort, get paperwork from the government that proves it, and be granted access to all of their spaces under the threat of legislation. This has gone as far as some men identifying as women during court proceedings, buying wigs, saying that they're transitioning, and getting sent to female prisons. It has also resulted in a cosmetic salon in Canada getting sued and shut down by the person on screen right now who demanded to be serviced. racist. The workers there said that they only served women and did not do any waxing of male genitalia. Again, the ladies in the salon lost this battle and were shut down. Another thing that the radical activists have usurped the LGBT for is attaching itself to the issues of trans women in female sports, the issues of child transitioning, the issues of preferred pronouns being enforced under threat of prison, which is what's already happening in the UK, etc. You get it. And that's not to mention other facets of society, like for example having gender theory taught to children in schools, scrambling their little brains at such a young age with all of this 72 gender nonsense, which is understandably radicalizing parents to reject anything at all that associates itself with the LGBT. Needless to say that this topic is deep and very complicated. LGBT representation in media has long stopped being about the simple acceptance of the concept of a gay or trans person existing and deserving the same rights as any other normal person, and has instead become about endorsing all of these radical political ideals that activists have attached to the LGBTQIA2S+++ community, which has even caused a lot of infighting within their own community because of a lot of regular-ass gay and trans people being against all of this lunacy and hating being retroactively associated with it, but that's a whole other topic. I read all my comments and I know my content can attract a lot of people who legitimately do not stand homosexuality, but I just urge you to separate that from your head for a moment and just think of how fucked up it would be to see extremists take over your space, enforce crazy-ass radical shit under the identity of not just your space but yourself as a person, and thus not only corrupting its nature of acceptance into one of radical politics with the goal of invasion and takeover, but also generate a shit ton of aggressiveness and hatred towards people like yourself because you, as a gay or bi person for example,
why are you gay?
Who says I'm gay?
Have been retroactively attached to radical extremism via activists that keep using the LGBT acronym and flag as a sword and a shield to push their ideologies. And trust me, I know that a lot of these people are 100% all the way in on this. They champion it, they live it, they breathe it like a cult. I mean, one look at their ever-extending acronym and at that list of 72 genders that's actually more like 100 by now, or one round trip through TikTok, and it's enough to see just how fucking outlandish all of it has become. But if you take at least one little thing from this topic, let it be this. To many gay, bi, and trans people, none of this shit matters. They're just as sick of it as you and me are. So why did I lay all of this shit out? Because I wanted you guys to see just how fucking stupid this body and beauty standard representation bullshit is. You can actually try to make a halfway legitimate argument for representation when it comes to people of color and gay people that are based on societal issues, within reason of course. Anytime this kind of shit is brought up in places where they don't belong, or cross lines such as for example having to put a fat ass black female dwarf in the world of Tolkien through Rings of Power because it's important, is absolute retardation, and it just completely crumbles down to classic out-of-touch narcissism. But at least there are situations where you can at least make an argument that a person can respectfully navigate through even if they disagree. But for fat acceptance? This is just an example of how things are going off the deep end and into the realm of utter lunacy, and also one that just shows how severely damaged our society is. Just how much social media has rotted people's brains and collectively dropped humanity's IQ level down a few points. Body positivity should be about inspiring people to look better and lead healthier lives, not about enabling people to continue bad unhealthy habits that are going to take them down a terrible path, leading to discomfort, pain, and health problems that they could have avoided. This body positivity movement claims that when beautiful, attractive women are displayed on screen, they are setting harmful body and beauty standards. Let that sink in.
What are you, fucking stupid?
So the fit, healthy-looking character or actor is doing the harm, not this body positivity movement by encouraging people to keep eating themselves to death. Okay. The demonization of beauty. So that delusional bit of idiocy aside, let's talk about the virtues of beauty. Beauty has inspired a great many things throughout human civilizations. It is something to strive for. Even if we aren't genetically gifted to look like Greek gods, we do have a way to look the very best that we can possibly look by taking as best care of ourselves as possible, and I think that there's nothing wrong with striving for that. It's not vanity to want to be the best version of yourself. Some people out there want to diminish the value of beauty as something bad and oppressive and that keeps other people down, or they want to try and redefine it by giving us shit like this. We are bringing real beauty to the virtual world. Listen guys, if you want to be happy in life, you should not be assholes. You know what I mean? But okay, I'm good. I'm back. So what I was trying to say was that I would never in my life look at this group of women and say anything negative. I am not a jerk. I am not going to be an edgy YouTuber. I'm not looking to become the next iDubbbz. And if nothing warrants any responses, then I don't give them. But when you are a fucking cosmetics brand trying to shovel your shit into the gaming space and you're using made up arguments with irrelevant stats and malicious intent for virtue signaling activism bullshit, then you end up asking for it. I am not going to read this whole fucking thing, okay guys? So here's what it says. Dove is partnering with the gaming industry allies to, quote-unquote, level up the virtual world. It says how gaming has become the #1 form of entertainment for teen girls in the US. Then it talks about some true things about gaming while also adding some bullshit into it, such as letting them express their true selves. I mean shit, maybe it's true, especially in Call of Duty lobbies.
Fellas, is it gay to be a man? I mean, you're literally walking around with a dick attached to you? Fellas! Is it gay to breathe? I mean, you're literally inhaling dick particles. Fellas! Is it gay to exist?
What is definitely not true though is this stuff that I kindly highlighted for you guys. So, new research from Dove, so by themselves, okay, that's so far so good, co-published with the NGO Women in Games and Center for Appearance Research, reveals that these unrealistic beauty standards in the gaming industry make girl gamers feel misrepresented. Girls agree that the lack of inclusivity in gaming is an issue. 74% of them wish more female characters in games looked like women in real life, and 62% feel misrepresented. Okay, so right off the get-go, I could give a fuck about these percentages when these were drawn out by the fucking company making this initiative and by activist NGOs. What in the 7 C's of fuck is even the Center for Appearance Research? What the fuck are you researching in there, Shrek? I looked the place up and I couldn't stop laughing. A sea of female researchers and then only just 2 dudes in there. I would wholeheartedly recommend that you guys look at this website yourselves, and you may end up having a laugh at some of the pictures of the people. I didn't say it. I didn't say anything. So let's get back into it. These statistics, I don't care. They are total bullshit and completely misrepresentative of what people actually want in their games, including women. Here you go, guys. Have a look at some female-created characters in Baldur's Gate 3. There's a lot more of these in Baldur's Gate 3 groups and also other RPG groups. This is all narcissistic fucking bullshit. Women, just like men, love aesthetically pleasing characters. They want to play video games as protagonists who look good and steal the show, not as fucking adults who steal the buffet. But since I'm nice, let's actually use their statistics as a factual basis. So, 74% of women wish to see real women on screen, and 62% of them feel misrepresented. Respectfully, I've gotta ask, how the fuck are you going to represent those 62% or even those 74% of supposed real women through 4 fucking body types that are even less common than the smoking hot chicks, which is what I assume that they have a problem with in older video games back when developers didn't have brain damage? You're going to take objectively good-looking women and call them unrealistic and misrepresentative of reality, aka you're going to say that realistically, on average, women are not good-looking, and you're going to represent them through a woman with Down syndrome, a disabled woman in a wheelchair, a fat woman, and a fat albino black woman.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
Oh, guys. I'm gonna get brain damage going through these topics. Please at least hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet, so I can buy ibuprofen or some shit. Beauty shouldn't be demonized or redefined. Beauty is beauty. It is not inherently bad. It does not deserve to be piled onto, redefined, or demonized as a bad aspect of humanity. A saying that often gets spoken is that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. This is because the matter of beauty is only toxic when discussed in situations like these, when they are trying to bullshit people. When you go out onto the street, you are not being judged based on your beauty. Of course, a beautiful woman or a handsome man is always going to get certain looks, more so than people who look more average. But you're not in a contest, you're not being judged. 99% of the people around you are too fucking busy dealing with their own shit. They're not going to notice your bad haircut because they're too busy worrying about if other people are going to notice their bad haircut. And when it comes to media, you're not going to be able to redefine the concept of beauty so that women like these on this image here are the ones going to get contacted for roles in movies instead of Sydney Sweeney, Scarlett Johansson, Jennifer Aniston, or Liv Tyler. It ain't happening. If we put that shit into games, the games are just going to flop. People do not want to play as ugly people in cool fictional settings where the protagonists are meant to shine. Heroes are meant to look good. They are meant to represent the best of us. And if there are any lines that should be drawn out from fiction and into reality, then it should be one of inspiration to work on yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself that you can be. This is what a healthy person should draw from fictional characters that look better than them, not narcissistic notions of disgust and victim mentality. Why doesn't the action hero in my video game look like me? Get the fuck out of here. What comes next after we cross this barrier and remove beauty from our media in order to appeal to the lowest common denominator among us? Should we stop Olympians and other athletes from competing and display their feats of athleticism, strength, agility, endurance, etc. just because we can't do it either and thus don't feel represented by them? Should we stop artists from exhibiting their talents just because we were born without certain gifts? Should we not value and reward intelligence just because some of us are born with learning disabilities or just don't give a fuck about studying? Should we stop praising and striving for the exceptional just because some of us are happy with mediocrity? Conclusion. The truth is that aesthetics matter. We are drawn to things that look good, products heavily rely on good design, and catchy, aesthetically pleasing advertisements to sell them to us. Games, movies, shows, etc. are products. While some genres require more average, unremarkable depictions, others require the exact opposite. Star Wars Outlaws, for example, needed a character that looked like the actress, someone who looks unapologetically good and steals the attention in any scene just by their looks and charisma alone. Like, oh, I don't know, fucking Harrison Ford's Han Solo, who the character was inspired by. And when it comes to sexuality itself, sex sells. Everyone clearly agrees with this. It's just that these disingenuous activists only find it acceptable for themselves and keep on demonizing men and heteronormativity in general. I am not much of a religious person or a traditional guy at all, but I hate hypocrisy and double standards. I find it disgusting, and the many examples of it over the years is what has been ruining the left politically. I can't in good nature defend any of their arguments. This is the reality that we live in. Good-looking characters are considered harmful. We're inclined to accept that the average, uninspiring designs are the way to go forward, and that's not to mention the outright ugly and deformed ones. And we are supposed to do it for some fake-ass, poorly argumented virtue signal of acceptance, tolerance, and representation. Acceptance and tolerance of what exactly? Of the rampant sexism and misogyny that is being committed against women right now who are being denied the chance of having their own aesthetically pleasing female characters in their own action, adventure, and RPG games, same as men have had for years and continue to have right now? while also being scolded for looking good, while being taught that their inherently feminine bodies are a bad thing, a harmful icon putting women down across the globe through unrealistic body and beauty standards, and also nothing but a depersonalized piece of bait to be consumed by disgusting savage men, being taught through intersectional feminist bullshit that romance is a force of control, ripping them of their agency and all this other bullshit. Is this what I'm supposed to be accepting and tolerant of? But then at the same time, on the other hand, their bodies are also a symbol of perfectly acceptable beauty and sexiness for gay women to fawn over? And if they're gay, then romance is a beautiful thing to be pursued, celebrated and tokenized? So which is it? Is sexualization and attractiveness and romance good or bad? I'm confused. Oh, I see, it's just another bullshit double standard made to fuck with biological women who refuse to conform to their vision of the world, dreamt up by absolutely retarded far leftists who are dumber than a second fucking coat of paint because they spend their entire time consuming brain-dead takes from political streamers like Hassan and other dumb fucking activists like Alyssa Mercante. Self-proclaimed feminists who, instead of empowering femininity, are tearing it down by presenting it as a bad, corrupted and weak thing for someone to have. Look at this moron from the Tomb Raider article from Guardian. They call this a feminist reinvention of Lara Croft. Meanwhile, in the very first line, they claim her old appearance looked like a strong wind could knock her over. Fantastic. If you're a woman and your body doesn't look like that of a man, muscled up, then I suppose that you're just a weak little fuck. A little bit of wind will knock you out. Hey, let it be known, it was the feminist writer who said it, not me. When they say things like these, and constantly keep redesigning these female characters with this phenomenon of DEI chin, which I didn't make up myself by the way, I saw a meme saying it, and I found it hilarious. Anyway, when saying shit like this and redesigning female characters to have male features like those, all they are doing is transmitting the message that strong female characters don't exist, and that femininity does not hold any power or worth of its own. You can only have power and worth through gender ambiguity presented by masculine features. And then we are the sexists. Fucking hell. Again, look at the characters that girls create. Surprise, surprise, women who play video games, much like the dudes, like aesthetically pleasing characters that resonate with their innate femininity or masculinity. Fuck, who would have thought, guys? This industry seriously needs to stop catering to the fucking 1% and using matters such as racism, sexism, homosexuality and transsexuality as a launching pad and a shield. Reject it every time you see it. The harassment of Japanese artists. So this is something that I almost forgot to mention, but that is very relevant and shows how these people deserve nothing less than scorn and criticism. These people are disgusting, they virtue signal as the best of us, and yet they bully and harass people who don't conform to their shit, showing that no matter what they hide behind, be it racism, LGBT or feminism, they do not care, they don't give a single fuck, they're not genuine. They have no morals to stand on. All they got is their ideology, and anyone who dares to speak against it or not conform to it gets targeted. They did it to Game Science, developers of Black Myth Wukong, for not wanting to make their mythological China setting look like downtown LA. Now they're going after Japanese artists. They already gave some shit a few weeks ago because there was this leaked video, well, not leaked, but sort of leaked, because Square Enix tried to keep deleting it, where Final Fantasy developers kept talking about how ridiculous this Western ideology of making women ugly really is. And now this here is a warning being shared to Japanese artists, giving them context for why they are being attacked by online mobs of unhinged retards, reassuring them that they did not do anything wrong, which they absolutely didn't, and even teaching them how to identify these morons online, via things such as acronyms like ACAB and BLM, gender pronouns, emojis like trans flags and communist symbols, announcing certain lifestyle choices such as poly, pan, demi, imaginary gender identification, Jesus fucking Christ, such as genderqueer, and any form of the word feminist, any reference to a K-pop group, and any references to mental illnesses. These were the funniest ones. They also advised them to ignore and block them and finish off the entire thing with, please continue to work hard, ignore the children who believe they have more power than they actually do. And I could not have put it better myself. These people are only as powerful as the power that we choose to give them. We gave ideologues an inch of consideration and they took a mile and created the cancel culture where they bulldoze over anyone who doesn't fit the mold set by their incredibly restrictive views, even those who they deem protected minorities. With that said, this has gone on long enough, so I'm cutting it here. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel, and most of all, keep your chins up. Don't let these people's hatred and false virtues get you feeling down or like you're doing something wrong by speaking out and advocating for normalcy and truth. Have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one.